Hello, everyone. Hello. I hope that you all are doing well. Welcome to Daughters of Cain, um, your favorite witchy live stream. I'm Jasmine. If you don't know who I am a witchy content creator here on the YouTube, as well as several different platforms. Check the links down below. I have a wonderful, talented, intelligent, charismatic, sickening, truthful, beautiful co host.
Hello, everybody. My name is Estradia, and I'm really excited about tonight's live stream because we're going to be casual.
It's super casual. And for tonight's casual live stream, I might even change the lighting to maybe something even like more colorful, fun, funky. We'll see. I'll probably be playing with it all night. We actually don't have anything like scripted to talk about tonight. I made a post on my socials asking you guys what burning questions you might have for the Daughters of Cain. And I did receive a couple questions, but I also figure too that like we'll get more questions as the stream goes on. So let's just start first with some of the questions I got from Facebook and Instagram. Does that sound good to you, Australia?
That sounds great.
Okay. So there's only a couple here, but I see that we already have like some questions in the chat. Love that. And also too, you guys, even if it's not a question for you, but if it's like a topic that you want to hear Australia and I's witchy perspective on, comment it down below.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if there's one thing about me and my co-host is you don't have to ask for our opinion for us to give it to you.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Period. Tell them what you're drinking tonight, by the way, because I really want to try this.
So I'm not much of a libation drinker.
Same. Y'all know, same.
But I do love a cider. And so I am drinking Cider Boy's Blackberry Wild Apple Blackberry Hard Cider. And I'm drinking it out of my lovely iridescent skull cup. Because of course.
Love it. I'm drinking some Vizzy Pops out of this tumbler that my sister gave me, which has like the ambigram witch on it, which is the same witch as the toe. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling very fancy. I need to refill already. Okay, so the first question. So we're going to start off with something kind of intense. So how would, and I'm not going to say like people's names or anything, because I know that some people don't necessarily want their name out there. But how would you recommend someone who's never worked with infernals, demons specifically, how would you recommend someone work with them? And what has your experience been like working with the demonics, if you will?
That is an intense first question.
And we're going to start there. Talk to us about working with demons.
So the thing I would say is that is not necessarily something I would recommend for beginners, not because of demons being...
Oh.
Am I good? Am I back? Uh-oh, what happened?
Yeah, you're back. You're
okay,
back. The demon said, now hold on. The demon said, now hold on, girl.
The demon said, no, you can't be sharing this information. My biggest recommendation is do your research first. Learn about different demons in mythology, learn about different infernal deities, different chthonic deities, before you go jumping into calling anybody. Because if you're just like willy-nilly, like, come forth, demon, I want to like do a thing, you're probably going to irritate them. Demons are more intense. They're more in your face. They are more active. They can be a little mischievous, you know? So I would say the best place to start would be do your research, learn as much as you can, and then, and this kind of holds true with any kind of working with any spirit, is if you are going to be contacting any type of spirit, make sure that there's purpose behind it, that you're not asking empty, silly questions. I think one of the things I find most irritating when I listen to people in a situation where they're like talking to spirits, they always start, "What can we do for you? What do you need?" Like, instead of that, like, have a good poignant question ready. Have a good topic ready for the demon, you know?
So that part of what you said about like people going to like basically invoke a spirit or conjure a spirit and petition the spirit and be like, "Oh, what can I do for you?"
Uh-huh.
I agree. I agree with that. Like these spirits were here long before we were, and they will continue to be here long after us. I do think that we're kind of giving an Enid, Wednesday, an Eve, Lilith moment here, if you will, because I actually strongly encourage witches, especially beginner witches, people brand new to the craft, to run, don't walk, run, and go contact the demonic immediately.
Yeah.
I don't think that you necessarily need to know what exactly you're doing, because here's my thing, right? Growing up for me, folk magic, sahir, astrology, whatever, like that was kind of around me. And I went through a phase, like in junior high and high school, where I was like, this shit is crazy. My mother is nuts. I don't believe any of this shit. Like it's all just superstition. And so during high school, I would hang out with my friends and we would like, take our parents' liquor and like, go out to the graveyard. And literally we would try to like stir shit up. And I did all of the things that they tell you not to do, right? Like all the things that they, whoever they are, tell you not to do. And I consistently, as like a junior in high school, tried to contact demons because I was like, oh my God, la chatine, like, you know what I mean? We're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to be trying to communicate with a bliss. But I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be that girl. And literally nothing happened. Like, outside of one experience where I was in a cemetery and I feel like the watcher or the guardian of that cemetery made it known that we needed to get the out. Aside from that, nothing really happened. So I think when it comes to working with demons, should you, shouldn't you? My personal perspective of the demonic is that most of, if we're talking about demons from like Solomon's perspective, most of these lesser spirits, or these 72, are actually gods of ancient Samaria, Mesopotamia, the Middle East, that have basically been demonized to fit the narrative of the Abrahamic religions. That's what I believe. So to me, demon, like the Greek daemon or like the Middle Eastern demon, it's kind of subjective in the sense that like I don't think that working with Furfur, for example, is inherently more dangerous than working with Hecate. And I would say that Hecate has been demonized, if not even more, than some of these lesser spirits. Working with the Dark Mother, working with Hecate, the Morrigan, Sekhmet, like I think pacting with familiar spirits and connecting to your own ancestry is where I would start before working with demons, for sure. But I do think that exploring the demonic as witches, considering witch as an archetype, and we've talked about this, I think, on the podcast As the Cauldron Bubbles before, like witch is inherently infernal. Like talk to me about that. Like there's something inherently infernal, right? About witches, like folklorically even.
So, for folklorically speaking, there was this belief that witches, by their very nature, were more connected to the infernal than they were to, let's say, more benevolent forces. I don't know if I like that terminology, but that's what we're going to use for right now. It was believed in certain parts of Europe that witches were more capable of speaking with infernal or demonic spirits, whereas the cunning folk or cunning women, cunning men, those who utilized wart cunning were more in tune with, say, the spirits of nature like the Fae. But then again, you also have various portions of other cultures that don't really differentiate between things like Fae, angels, demons, and so forth. They're all spirits. Um, and there's also the, idea that witches and cunning folk are just two sides of the same coin, which I agree with that, because both sides are capable of healing and harm.
Right.
So yeah, there is folklore backing up the concept that being a witch and witchcraft in general is inherently more infernal in nature. That may not be true for everybody, but there's folklore to back it up.
Period. So I want to get to Blood's question, because first of all, we love blood.
Yeah.
Both literally, we love blood, but we also love blood, sweat, and steel.
Yeah.
And I recently, you guys, commissioned a stang from blood that I am so excited to share with y'all. I probably won't share it here on my channel until after the SCC yearly trad Coven meeting because we're going to consecrate it first. So once we do that, you might see it in some content, but Blood, Sweat, and Steel has a channel here on YouTube. Go check it out. They're a wonderful blacksmith. Go commission them for some ritual tools. Stop buying the crap from Amazon and go commission a witch to make you something. Okay.
For sure.
So Blood says, I have a question. Have either of you tried working with elements outside of the standard earth, air, fire, water? Example, I work with metal and wood as elements. Mm-hmm. Thoughts, Australia?
So the general concept of what the elements are is that they are the building blocks of all things, spiritually and physically. Our physical bodies are made up of the four elements. Everything around us is composed of the four elements. However, I do believe that this building block extends into a much broader spectrum. I think that at the core, we have things like earth, air, fire, water, and spirit or void, depending on how you look at it. In Eastern astrology, you have the four elements, or not the four elements, you have the five elements being earth, water, fire, wood, and metal. So that falls into what Blood is saying. I also, at one point in time, extended this to other fundamental forces of nature. So things like subcategories. So you have things like ice and steam and electricity and things like that. I also extended out more cosmically. So you have things like light and dark, not the theoretical light and dark that a lot of people use within witchcraft, but like the actual energetic material of light, the wavelength of light, and the concept of dark matter. And then things like time and space and things like that as you get more out into cosmic things and whatnot, and then it extends out even further. In my practice, I don't just work with the four elements. I also frequently work with the void, which is also a big Eastern concept. I work with stellar energies, so I work a lot with like the moon and the stars and things like that, which I do feel fall into that category. So that's my take.
I would love to know, do you consider the void and the element of darkness the same or like different?
No, because for me, I view void in the way that it is the cauldron where all things begin and return to. So everything emerges from the void and everything returns to the void. Is there an inherent darkness to that? I guess, because, if we look at like phenomenon like black holes and things like that, these things absorb light. These things take in light, but they're black in the middle. And most of the time when people think about darkness, they associate that with blackness. And unfortunately, in the magical community, sometimes that can be a little racist. But
Right.
in this instance, my scientific understanding of like dark matter and the void, or singularity, or whatever that you want to look at that as, are not the same thing.
So do you think that like darkness comes from the void? Or do you think that darkness and the void are just totally separate elements entirely?
I believe that they're related, but I think all the elements are related. I think that darkness is an ever pervasive thing. I've always been the type of person to believe that no matter how much light you have in a room, it's just a veil for the darkness behind it. And while I don't like the association of darkness with evil or something sinister, I can understand where people draw that narrative, because it is the mystery, it is the unknown, it is something that people have a hard time understanding because the light is gone and they can't see anymore. But I would attest that but I've always said that if you've given yourself time to adjust, you can see far more than you would have been able to see in the light. But I'm also not the kind of person to inherently put the moniker of light and dark on magic, because I think these things exist in all things in duality. We all have these building blocks within our physical form, within our spiritual form, in the world around us. And it's important to have balance in all things, and balance can look different for other people. So, yeah.
Right. No, that's true. Like, what's balanced for one witch could look vastly different than like the next witch. I think that for myself, in terms of Blood's question, working with metal and wood, like I understand that some witches work with those as elements. As of now, I haven't. For me, the elements are earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. Spirit, I consider like Akasha, Aether, and then I work with like light and dark as elements. So it has nothing to do with like light or dark necessarily being good or bad, because we don't project our moral good or bad on water or air or earth. But I know that some witches project like their morality onto light and dark, but to me, I don't. I see light and dark as like their own cosmic celestial elements, whereas I see more earth, air, fire, water, more earthly. And that's in our tradition and our practice. As of now, I've not really explored working with metal, nor have I really explored working with wood, just because those are outside of my tradition. So that's my answer to that. Another question that I have, going back to our list, is the trans experience and witchcraft. That was literally the question, so I guess interpret it as thy will.
I will say this: you guys are asking big questions, and I really love that, because I feel a big part about witchcraft is asking the big, hard questions. So the trans experience and witchcraft. So I guess the first thing I'll say is the trans experience in modern day society is not easy for any of us dolls. Would you agree?
Period.
But I feel like people who neglect to recognize the inherent spirituality of the trans community. And I'm not saying that every trans person is like a spiritual virtuoso or anything like that. Not every trans person is a witch or an animist or anything like that. But a lot of us have the very deep potential for this. If you look back through history, you'll find that trans people or eunuchs or people like that have always held a station of spiritual reverence. Even in the Bible, this is something that I was studying recently. Even in the Bible,
let's get biblical, honey.
Jesus is talking about the eunuchs, and this actually goes into the concept of multiple genders as well. But Jesus is talking about the eunuchs and how the eunuchs are not all the same. They were not all made eunuchs the same way. Some of them were forced into it, some of them chose it.
Right.
And these different groups of eunuchs were all held in high regard by Christ. So there's that spiritual connection. You have the two spirits of Native American culture who were always held in spiritual regard. You have the Hydra of India who are held in high spiritual regard, so much so that Hydra are called to bless weddings and childbirth.
And funerals, I think, too, right?
Yeah, funerals as well. So for me, being trans is about, one, understanding myself and my place in life and the universe, that I am experiencing life as my truest self. I am honoring my truth, my identity. Being a witch and an animist, I am honoring the deep spiritual nature of what it is to be this dualistic creature that I am. I very much believe that we as trans people have one foot in the material world and one foot in the spiritual world at all times. And for me, my transness is not just about identity, but it is an inherent part of my spiritual beliefs, dare I say religion, as a magical being and a magical individual. Part of the whole reason, I'm sure you guys have noticed that my hair changes pretty much every video. I wear wigs. And part of the reason that I do that is, in the trans community, it is a big deal for a lot of us dolls to have more feminizing hair. So there's that aspect. But for me, this is also how I veil. This is how I protect my crown, by putting another crown on top of it.
Period.
So this, not only does it make me beautiful to me, it also protects my magic. It protects my spirit. So
I don't even know how I can follow that. Like, honey, mic drop, period. Everything that Estradia just said, I think the veiling thing is like a separate topic that I would love to touch on. But in terms of us being dolls, which, for the record, a couple of you have asked, dolls are specifically trans women, specifically. So when we're saying the dolls, we're referencing trans women, okay? Trans women in witchcraft. I mean, I think Estradia said it herself best, really. But I think even if we look back to like Greece, because we love to use like the Greco-Roman paganism as a way to guide our Lampadios, the oracles of Delphi and like the ancient oracles of Europe, the Middle East, what have you, like queer people, I will say, not necessarily just trans women, but queer people often in old societies were led down a path of either sex work or spirituality. Sometimes those coincide and like it's both, and sometimes they're separate. But we are, like Estradia said, inherently connected to the liminal because we are liminal beings inherently in the flesh. That's not to say that if you're cisgender or if you're heterosexual that you're not magical.
Right.
Like, and I don't want anyone to think that we're saying that. But what I am saying is that because we are queer, because we are trans, and both of us are also not heterosexual. Okay. So like there's a double whammy here, if you will. It gives us a different perspective. And to assume that it wouldn't affect our magic, I think is ignorant. And a comment that I get on TikTok specifically is like, why do you keep talking about the fact that you're queer or you're trans and like just make witchcraft content? I have to talk about it because it's a part of who I am. Like my witchcraft is sculpted and shaped by my perspective, and my perspective is that of a queer trans woman. So the dialogue that you're going to get from me comes from that narrative. Period. Okay, so going back to a live stream comment, because I figure we can go back and forth to like what I got on social media versus what people are saying in the chat. Keep the questions coming, you guys. We plan on streaming for like at least another hour until about 8:30, 9 at the latest. Okay. So keep your questions coming. We will try to get to them. If we are not able to, it does not mean we don't like you. Let me say that too. Okay. So Necromathicon says, I'm obsessed with necromancy and afterlife studies. Of course. What are your views on the other world and its inhabitants? Do you mind if I start this one off?
Go ahead.
Okay. So my first thought when reading this is let's define here what we're talking about. To me, necromancy is simply working with the dead. Simply. So a lot of these like love and light new age mediums are kind of also necromancers. Also, the other world to me is separate from the underworld. The other world to me is the land of like the fae folk, basically, the nature spirits. So the other world is here in the mid world, the Midgard, if you will, and it's adjacent to it. It's not separate from it. It's always here. So the other world, in my tradition, would see this more as the nature spirits, which to me don't necessarily have much to do with the underworld or necromancy. I think that you can invoke spirits from the other world into your necromancy, but I don't know if most of them are even interested in human underworld. The underworld, the afterlife, I use those words kind of interchangeably. As far as like what does the afterlife look like? Personally, I'm a big subscriber of reincarnation. I believe that what is created can never really be destroyed. So energy just transmutes itself. I believe that my physical flesh will die and rot, but I believe that my soul will continue on. And there's also this belief, which I've been learning about in my Red Thread Academy training, about the three souls, which is not unique to traditional witchcraft, because I believe it's also found in like Norse paganism as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, the soul has multiple parts to it. So there's the white, red, black. The black soul is that of the earth. It'll haunt the land. The white soul goes back to the cosmic and reincarnates into new flesh or goes back to the cosmic source. And the red soul pours through essentially bloodline lineages. So from mother to daughter, from father to son, or it pours through craft lineages. So from HP to HP to HP to HP, the red soul flows like blood in that way. So that's kind of how I view the afterlife. I view it in that three soul sort of dynamic. And I believe that, like, in terms of the underworld, in a traditional Greek sense of like souls being down there, maybe that's where the black soul goes. I mean, I'm still trying to understand my own cosmology about the afterlife. I will say that, like, as a practicing medium, as a necromancer, like, I've contacted spirits of the dead. So why are they not in the underworld? Why are they still here? I think that the verdict could be out on that. Um, and also, these are my beliefs right now, and they're subject to change. So, what do you think, Australia?
Folklorically speaking, when it comes to the other world, especially in Irish, Scottish, and Welsh folklore, or the folklore of Britannia or of Celtic folklore, it was very much believed that the other world or the realm of the Fae is also where our souls go when we pass. A lot of people believe or believed that, and the fairy faith is still a very real thing that is active um, in these Celtic countries. Um, for me, death is different. Um, I do I do have a belief in reincarnation, um, but it gets a little bit more complicated than that. A lot of my work with necromancy and the dead and the realms of the dead have involved working with a realm that I have been aware of since I was a child, and it has been a part of my personal inner mysteries for a very long time. I'm not going to get super deep into that because it is very personal. What I will say is that there is a place that I believe that we pass through, that we might dwell in for a period of time before we are ready to return, because there's a lot of baggage that has to be sloughed off from this life before we're ready to go into the next life fresh. Um, that's just my personal belief. I do have a belief in past lives just because of some of the things that I have experienced, and I apologize for being vague. Um, death work, death practice, death magic, necromancy, whatever you want to call it, is a very large part of my practice. I will say that I think that a very good way to dip your toe into necromancy, if this is something that you're interested in, not specifically the question asker, but anyone, um, ancestral veneration, ancestral worship. Work with your ancestors. They did. If you're working with your ancestors, you're working with the dead. That's necromancy.
Yeah, I would say necromancy is anything in terms of like working with spirits, human spirits of the dead. I view that as necromancy, if you will.
Necromancy.
Also, wellness is life. Good to see you, babe. So our next question, okay, going back to social media, what is your favorite beginner witchcraft book?
Ooh.
Like, if someone was just looking to get into witchcraft, what book would you recommend?
See, that's complicated because it depends on
No, just say what book you would recommend. What's the first book that comes to your mind?
Keldon's book.
Which one?
The first one he wrote, The Crooked Path.
Crooked Path would be my same answer. I love Crooked Path. I think that book, first of all, I did a live stream with Keldon. Love Keldon. Go watch the live stream.
He's so
Their
sweet.
book fundamentally altered my personal practice for sure. And I love it. I love the Crooked Path.
Yeah.
I would say outside of that book for myself, another book that comes to mind is literally called Wicca by DJ Conway. And I know that a lot of us might have some hurt feelings or some triggers about the word Wicca. I get it. But DJ Conway's Wicca was one of the first like organized systems of magic books that I came across. I think I was like 19 when I first got that book. And what I liked about it is it's designed for you to do a full year and a day of studying multiple different traditions. Um, so while it is very Wiccan, I would call it an eclectic Wiccan book. And like you learn about various different pantheons and herbs and the moon and like a whole bunch of very general witchcraft stuff. Very similar to our current book club book. Y'all go join the Indies Witches book club group on Facebook. We're reading The Untamed Witch right now. This to me is the Wicca by DJ Conway, but in 2023 is what it says. I like that book by DJ Conway because it gave me something practical to do at the end of each exercise. But yeah, Keldon's book, Crooked Path, Australia, was also my first pick as well.
If I was to throw some other stuff into the ring for a good starter place, I do have a few recommendations. Jason Miller's Protection and Reversal Magic, as well as The Sorcerer's Secrets, are amazing books and very beginner friendly, especially The Sorcerer's Secrets, because he walks you through beginning practices, daily practices, things like that. The Psychic Witch by Matt Aron, I think, is a good one once you get past some of the beginning fluff. He does kind of go on and on a bit at the beginning of the book. Not that that's a bad thing. It gives you a look into his background. It's a little long. But once you get into the real practical aspect of the book, like he teaches some very good foundational practices, which I think is missing from a lot of books. Things like grounding, centering, shielding, banishing, things like that, things that you need
speaking
to know.
Of that, not to interrupt, but speaking of that, going back to our first question about working with demons, it's borderline hilarious to me how many demonolators on TikTok are talking about their work with demons, but yet they don't understand their own fundamental grounding techniques or their fundamental banishing techniques. Energy work is a good place to start, I think, for any witch. Grounding, banishing, shielding, warding, cleansing. The 3 C's. Keep it clean, keep it cleansed, keep it consecrated. Okay? Period. Also, I love Consorting with Spirits. I think that's a really good book for people who are interested in working with spirit bodies in their practice.
And about demons and the dead, let me tell you, if you can't ground, if you can't shield, if you can't banish,
it shows.
You probably don't have any business calling on the spirits.
And it shows.
Know your fundamentals. Know your foundational work. Take time to get into those things. If you're feeling stagnated in your practice, go back to those things, because that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I'm like revisiting things from the mindset of a beginner, because it's important to go back to your roots, because
and they call the craft spiral. Listen, babes, if I don't care how long you've been practicing witchcraft, okay? They call the path a crooked path, and they also call it a spiral path because it's not linear. You could be a practicing witch of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. You should be willing to revisit the basics, because I promise you, regardless of your experience, those basics will offer you something.
Yeah, period.
So, Timothy, let's go to a live stream question. You guys, if you have questions for us, leave them down below. We will try to get to them. And if we have to do a part 2 Q&A, damn, I guess we'll have to do a part 2. But Timothy says, Jasmine, what are your thoughts on Cain and his role for the witch? I'm going to give this to my co-host as well, because we're both doing a Q&A, but my thoughts on Cain are developing, really. My work with Cain has only been within the past like year and a half. Um, as far as Cain being a face of the Witch's Devil, I've gotten to know him more through my work in the Red Thread Academy. Still don't completely connect with Cain personally. Um, I appreciate and understand Cain's aspect of like the first witch or like the first murderer or Lilith's son, I've seen in some context. Like Lilith basically like adopting Cain as like her nephew and making Cain like her son. But as far as like what are my thoughts on Cain and his role, I view it more as like the witch father. And the witch father or the witch's devil has many different faces. Um, one of those faces being Cain. And, the reason why Estradia and I both, I think, if I can speak for us both and correct me if you think differently, picked Daughters of Cain as like the name for our live stream is because Cain kind of represents this rebellious adversarial figure. And I think that for Estradia and I, we are both rebellious women. We are both kind of the quote unquote black sheep. Even in the witchcraft community, being queer and being trans, amongst other things, like we're often made to feel like the black sheep or the outsider. And I think that's kind of the energy that I felt from Cain in my rituals working with Cain. But I definitely want to explore working with Cain more. Personally, for me, the face of the witch father I work with most closely is actually Lucifer. Lucifer in the pre Abrahamic god of the sun and of light, but also the post Abrahamic fallen angel. Lucifer, she is sickening. And that's all I have to say on that.
I agree with all of that. I have been involved with Cain for
involved. You
for
guys have involvement, have it?
Involvement. I have been involved with Cain for a bit longer. I was in a witchcraft tradition at one point in time where Tubal Cain was a prominent focus. And also a big aspect of my practice revolves around the witch fire, which is a big thing with the witch father and Cain and everything like that.
Can you explain witch fire?
So the witch fire is the flame betwixt the horns. If you've ever looked at a picture of Baphomet, Baphomet often has this like thing coming out of the top of his head, and there's a flame, or sometimes there's and I say he, I Baphomet has no gender, but
also this pillow is available on my merch store, just so y'all know. And that's the flame between the horns, honey.
That flame represents the illumination or the fire, the passion of the witch. It is also a direct symbol of the magic that burns within us. Tubal Cain, in correlation with that, Cain is the blacksmith. Hey, blood. Cain is the blacksmith. And part of his imagery is that he forges the fire of every witch. And then when it is time for that witch to move on to the other world, that fire is quenched in the quench tank. And then he reforges the fire anew. So the witch fire is an aspect of every witch. It is the fire. It is the magic that burns within us. It is the knowledge betwixt the horns. It is the fire that burns at our crown. So my connection with Cain is similar to what Jasmine said. Cain is the witch father, and Cain is, to me, the direct masculine representation of the witch fire, whereas I also have my feminine representations of the witch fire. I too also work with Lucifer, but I don't work with Lucifer specifically in a masculine orientation. Lucifer, to me, much like Hecate, exists as a dualistic representation of both masculine and feminine. So yeah.
Period.
Period.
So I regrettably have to go pee again.
Scandal.
So either I can leave you here with the chat for a moment to keep
Yeah.
with them, or I can put on an overlay and some music. What would you prefer?
You know what? Chat, if you have any questions specifically for me while Jasmine goes and handles her business,
I'm going to put you on solo.
Hello.
And
Hello,
we'll
everyone.
come back to the sorceress's question about trance work. So don't touch on that because I want to touch on that too. But I'll be right back. But yeah, blow up Australia, honey. And also bully her into doing some work on her channel, please. Can we have some bullying in the comment section, please?
You know, I have been thinking about making a video talking about my experience with the witch devil or the witch's father. So that could happen.
Okay, please do. BRB.
Go do you, girl. All right, guys. I'm sorry I keep looking down. I have my tablet down here so I can see what you guys are saying and everything like that. Oh, thank you, Mikey. Have either of you read Lady of Light, the Luciferian poem from Blavatsky? No, I have not, but I want to. That sounds really interesting. I'll have to look that up. Let's see, Estradia, I hope I spelled that right. You sure did, babe. But do you engage with possession in your practice? I do. I think, so a little background on me. I was raised in the Hoodoo Conjure community. You may not be able to see it because of the blonde and how pasty I am, but I am of mixed race. I was my mother, and I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, both of whom are Black. And I was raised in the Spiritual Baptist Church, which is not the same thing as a regular Baptist church. It is like Baptist church with ladies doing root work. Through that, I gained an interest in voodoo and hoodoo and things like that, which are not the same thing. But heavily in voodoo, there is spirit riding, spirit possession, where you allow the spirit of the Loa to ride you or possess you, and then they speak to the people that are there for the ritual. That's not the proper word. So through witchcraft, I have acted as an oracle before, where I have gone into a trance-like state. Sorceress, we'll get to that question, trust me. And I've allowed myself to be ridden by a particular deity that we were using for that particular point in time. So yeah, possession is definitely something that I engage in my practice. Estradia, can you please do some work on your channel? Yeah, I absolutely can. I have a problem. I have ADHD. I also have executive dysfunction. So sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to get started on some things. But I do love talking about witchcraft. I love talking about folklore. So yeah, it's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Please. And also, too, don't just bully Australia. Also bully Mikey. Okay? Because I'm waiting for Mikey's content. Mikey just launched a really cute little intro video. Go check out their channel too.
Xander, I love that question. Can we ask which congregation she grew up in? Spiritual Baptist Church.
The Baptist Church.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't remember because I stepped away from that a very long time ago. And because
you're a horrible Baptist.
I am. And because of my ADHD, I have trouble like holding on to certain memories about, especially like details of things. I just remember the root work aspect and like my grandma doing like the work, you know?
The work. Which we also would call the craft.
The craft.
Ritual.
Now, Now, I guarantee that, like, if you were to call my grandmother, may she rest in peace, a witch, she would probably smack you with a wooden spoon.
I'm fortunate enough that my grandmother is still living, and like I have talked to her about some things because see, she has this group of women that she meets with every full moon, believe it or not. And it's a book club. And they've been hosting this book club for longer than I've been alive. And so they started the book club around the book Women Who Run with the Wolves, which is this book here, which I actually have my grandmother's copy of this book. Some of her notes, let's see, some of her notes, like if I can actually show this on my shitty webcam camera, like she's written in this book. Um, and so her book club started with Women Who Run with the Wolves, which was one of our book club books last year. It's a book about like basically folklore and women's empowerment. Um, and so that's what her book club started with. However, they read that book and they've been going on for longer than 30 years. And I know that they read oracle cards together. Gasp. But they're very secretive about like what they get down with.
Sounds like a coven to me.
And I will say too that like my mother did use the word witch to identify herself with, but more so in like a political aspect. Like she didn't think that she was practicing witchcraft. She thought that she was praying. Right. My grandmother only now has embraced the word witch, but that's mostly due to me. And a lot of my personal background, like my father's side is very secular. My mother's side is kind of like, I would say, pseudo Sufi spiritual. So, what did I miss though while I was gone peeing?
Well, forgive me. I have to strip y'all because I'm hot.
Why does it always get so hot?
I don't know. See, I don't have those though. I wish I did. Don't have them yet. I was asked about possession work and if I'm down with the possession, and I am, which we need to get to Sorceress's question, but my sole purpose, yes. Okay, so guys, I have had an idea for a while, and it's not necessarily for a YouTube channel. I have been thinking about very heavily starting a Twitch stream.
No.
Where I discuss folklore and spirituality and magic, just because it's a little more freeform. I don't have to script anything. Once it's filmed, it's raw, it's there. And
no, do it on YouTube.
I might. You can stream on YouTube. Here we are. So I could do live streams on YouTube talking about these things, and then they'll be saved as videos. So I could do that too.
Period. So are we looking at, okay, are we looking at, and forgive me, it's the Vizzy Pop and me, but are we looking at social media questions or live stream questions? Where are we at? I'm too ADHD for this.
Same. Let's go ahead and answer Sorceress's question because she's been waiting.
Okay, let me see if I can that again. Here we are. So I have a question. What are your methods getting into trance work before spell work or ritual?
I have a good answer for this, for what I do. It's real.
Take it off, honey. Take it off.
So first of all, people aren't going to like this because nobody ever likes to hear this. Meditation is key. Meditation is key.
Meditate.
The big thing I will say about meditation is do not listen to people who are like, you must clear your mind. That's not what meditation is. There's some really beautiful resources out there on how to meditate. Jason Miller has a beautiful section in Strategic Sorcery where he talks about meditation. I'm also kind of on my Jason Miller tea right now because I am taking his Strategic Sorcery course right now. And
you should ask Jason if he would come onto our show.
If I knew him personally, I would, but I do have a friend who knows him, so that's a possibility.
You can still DM him, probably on like Instagram or something.
I tried to friend him on Facebook, and I think he rejected my friend request. I'm not sure about that though. I might try again.
The
Anyway,
gag.
getting into trance work, meditation is a big part of it, but the second thing is that I like to do is called seething. I love a good seethe. So what seething is it is rhythmic body motion
I
because
love that you're touching on this because I just finished an assignment in the RTA about this. So I love that you're touching on this.
um, it is rhythmic motion with your body where you basically rock back and forth and you allow that motion to put you into an altered state.
For those
Um,
of you who have sat in a rocking chair and disassociated, it could be like that.
yeah,
Okay.
very much that. So usually what I'll do is when I'm in my ritual space, after I have meditated for a moment, what I will do is I will sit in a position that is comfortable, because it is okay to be comfortable when you are doing your magic, because if your back hurt, your feet hurt, your leg asleep, you're not going to do magic as well. But or although pain is also another good way to enter trance. But usually what I'll do is I'll meditate, I'll do some deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. I usually do, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like the 4-4-4 method of breathing. Like you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, you hold for 4, that. And while I'm breathing
That's
like
so
that,
crazy. We used to do that in back when I was like an active belly dancer, taking classes, like that's what our instructor actually like recommended was that 4 for 4. I don't mean
a
shake
4,
and shake.
right. And then I'll just sit there and I will start slowly to rock back and forth. And then sometimes it'll get more intense. I'll also tend to tap my leg because I have restless leg syndrome. So I'll move my legs and stuff like that. And I will rock, and over time I will start to enter a trance state. And once I'm at a point where I feel like I am decently entranced, I do the work.
The great work. Huh?
And that's my preferred method for getting into trance. I don't really, I'm kind of a wuss. I don't really like to use the pain method, but
I do.
and
That's
I don't
me.
and I don't recommend that anyone harm themselves. However,
I do.
self-flagellation, utilizing a scourge or a cat of nine tails, not like a crazy one like you would hear about back in the day, but like the self-flagellation where you whip yourself, is a method of getting into trance. It just is. It just is. I'm not saying I recommend that, but it is a method.
So, you guys, how do I follow that, right? Um, Methods of getting into trance. Seething is something that I have done for a while, but I've only learned this terminology recently through being a student of the Red Thread Academy. And this whole concept too of like using the stang as like a musical instrument and using a tang, using like you have your stang and then like I'm not going to do the gesture, but
Do it. Do the gesture.
doing the with the stang and then taking the tang and striking it against the stang. Music and dance for me have always been a really powerful way to get into trance.
Yes.
Kentickumancy, divination through music, literally putting on my favorite playlist and just hitting shuffle and asking the spirits to show me what I need to be shown. And like deciphering that oracally through music is a very powerful thing for me, not to be like an insufferable Libra, but like we love our music. Um, and even back when I was an active belly dancer, like at my cousin's bar or whatever, like it was equally a vampiric and energy sort of exchange where I was getting the energy from the audience, but I was also tapping into the music. Um, and also, too, like pain, like Estradia talked about, can be a very powerful thing for trance. And I honestly recommend that modality because it pushes you to, how do I want to call it? It pushes you to a different level I can think back to our Coven's last spring equinox ritual, and it was negative 24 degrees. Um, and we were out in the woods doing that ritual. And still to this day, that is one of the most powerful group open rituals I think our coven has ever put on. And I think that's partially because we were so cold, we were physically in pain. And so it made us really focus on the work that we were doing. Um, Another modality for trance, and this is controversial, and I actually thought about making a video about this for TikTok, but I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this on TikTok, because TikTok is very censored. But honey, it's a reason why they call it spirits for the spirits. And the girls that know what I mean know what I mean. Honey, spirits for the spirits. Okay. Substances, when used responsibly, can be a magical tool. Alcohol specifically is a spirit. And when you consume alcohol, you're placing the spirits inside of your vessel. Spirits for the spirits. They call liquor spirits, okay? I don't know how much more clear I can make that. Alcohol is not the only spirit that I would say can be used in a positive, ritualistic way. And let me say this too. I don't think that all substances are fruitful to use ritualistically. Some are more for recreation, and that's okay too. I would say that cannabinoids and alcohol and psychotropics and maybe some psychedelics are fruitful.
I will say I am no stranger to the utilization of an entheogenic substance to help me enter a altered state.
Period. I think it's especially good for flying. Like if you want to go into a trance to like fly, I think that if you're not using them, because here's the thing, some people think, oh, if you use uh, substances, you're using it as a crutch. No.
No.
And I think for some people, maybe for some people, but I don't think it's a crutch, because literally I don't view it that way. I view it more as like you're placing a spirit inside of you to do the trance, to do the work.
Yeah, period.
Okay, so back to social media.
What is our next question? Vibes.
Oh, Mikey, thank you for this poem. Thank you, guys. Okay. I should probably pin our next live stream question.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do this one next. Also, if you guys have questions for us or talking points, comment down below. We will be streaming for another 30 minutes to an hour. So, okay, our next social media question, and I don't feel like this one is as heavy as some of our other ones. Also, I just want to say it's a gag to me that every time I'm like, let's do a Q&A, you guys ask about my trans experience, which like I'm happy to be your trans friend. If you don't have a trans friend, I'm happy to answer maybe some questions that you have about being transgender. But every single time,
girl, they just want to know.
So our social media question is simply this, and take this as you will. Coven? Question mark? Not even covens. It's just coven? Question mark? I'm not really sure what you meant by this. I got this question in my Instagram DMs. But Coven question mark.
So, Jasmine, you are very much an advocate for talking about Covenry.
I guess so.
You don't necessarily recommend it to everybody, but you talk about it a lot. So, what we want to know is, Coven?
Also, Gannon, we are in Indiana. Yes, we are.
Yes, we are indeed. Witches of the Crossroads.
Literally.
Literally.
So, how do we interpret this question? Coven?
I guess I would interpret it as, is Covenry worth it? What is your take on Covenry?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say, is Covenry worth it? Why are you interested in a coven? For me, as like an HP of SCC, during our petitioning process, which I think any coven that's like worth its salt should have an entrance process. I'm not talking about initiation. I'm saying going from maybe a seeker or a guest to a dedicant to a petitioner to an initiate. One of my first questions for a guest who is petitioning our coven, once they make it to at least dedicant status, if not petitioner, is why? Like, why do you want to be in a coven?
I think that's a really good question to ask.
Well, I think that asking that question lends a lot of wisdom, because if you're just looking for community, you don't need a coven for that. If you're looking for friends, you don't need a coven for that. You can find community and friends in a coven, but you don't need a coven for that. If you're looking to be an HP, you don't need a coven for that. Most covens will have a votary training or something along the lines of a practicum. And if you want to ascend, if the coven does have a degree system, that will be an option. But you don't really need a coven for that. You could be your own HP and start your own group. So covens, question mark, I would say covenry is not for, I would say, probably 60 to 70% of witches. Because I think that so many of us are, our practice is personal. And you can have a solitary practice and be a coven witch, sure. But also there's going to be a different level of expectation and commitment based on the coven that you're joining. And if you're not willing to make those commitments, if you're not willing to stick to a structured calendar or oath or obligation, blessed be.
Yeah.
What would you say about covens, question mark?
Well, just to throw this out there, by the way, because just to alleviate any confusion or anything like that, Jasmine and I are not in the same coven. I'm actually not in a coven. I'm presently a solitary practicing witch. I used to be in a coven many moons ago.
Are people confused by that?
I don't know, but I feel like because of our relationship, people might think that we are ensorcelled together in magic as a coven. But Jasmine and I
she lives in my same city, and I can't even get her over to my house to have a drunk girl moment laughing at evangelical Christians with a drinking game.
Y'all, I am, despite the glam, I am a consummate hermit. I hate leaving my house. I don't like going outside. I don't like talking to people. I like talking to you guys, but I don't like, being out amongst the normies. It's just not for me.
Felt insane.
Also, she lives like 20 minutes away from me, and my anxiety does not like me to drive more than 10. So, I'll get there eventually. And I have visited you, ma'am.
In times of crisis, she has shown up. And I
Yes.
appreciate you for that. And I don't take it for granted, but I will bully you into coming over. And maybe one day we can do a Daughters of Cain live together in person.
The bullying thing is a constant in our relationship. If you guys want to hear about how we met, it is just a story of bullying and stalking.
Comment down below if y'all want to hear how we met.
Um,
Cringe.
in the vein of Coven, I agree that I don't think Covenry is for everybody.
Would you say you don't agree it's for most, even?
I would say I don't think it's for most. And the reason that I say that is because aside from all of the like oaths and obligations that go into it, you have to understand that there is a deep, deep level of trust that you are putting into being a member of a coven. To me, it's like being part of a family. And for me, there's a deep level of trust there. You are trusting these individuals with your magic. And I don't think everyone is capable of that level of trust. It's just what it is. I think there's a reason why so many of us are solitary practicing witches.
It's the four people.
Yeah.
It's the five people, the four people. Like, how did y'all meet?
Well, we will definitely get into that. However, we do have some questions before we get there. So, going off of questions in the chat, Gannon asked, what are some spaces that we would recommend for pagans in Indiana?
Let me find this comment so I can repost.
The full comment says, sorry, I screwed up my full question. Recommended spaces for pagans in Indiana.
I need to figure out a way to like make you a mod or something on the streams. That way you can post it too. Because I found this one by Gannon. Oh, recommended spaces for pagan. This one?
Probably. Yeah, there's another one further down.
Recommended spaces for pagans in Indiana. I believe there is a pagan meetup group that takes place the last Wednesday or Thursday of every month. If you just go on Facebook, if you're on Facebook and look for like Indiana Pagan Meetup, you should probably be able to find it. I think it's at Black Acre Brewing. I know that there's like a monthly meetup there. Other than that, I would say like connect with your local metaphysical stores. I won't name names of the specific shops because, honey, they're not sponsoring us. But I will say if you Google search metaphysical, occult, or psychic shops in Indiana, they will come up, and get in contact with the owners of those shops because normally the owners are kind of a nexus point for the community. Yeah, what would you say, Australia?
You know, going back to that whole consummate hermit thing, I have a hard time answering this question because for me, like, a safe place to go is like the woods, a graveyard in the middle of the night. But if we're talking about community, I'd say find your local witchcraft shop, talk to the owners about like what do they got going on. There is
Yeah, I assumed it was about community.
Yeah, there is a shop I would have recommended. Unfortunately, they are closed currently because they had a fire. And their shop has been closed for a while now. Oh, are we blue now?
I'm changing the spectrum.
Love that. Love that for you. Smurfette realness. For me, unfortunately, like my safe space is in my space. So I don't really go out and explore much. However, what I will say is that Jasmine and I do have an ambition to create a safe space for witches within Indiana, especially queer witches within Indiana.
And
So,
even if that's Daughters of Cain live
yeah.
stream, even if you also have things that keep you from leaving your house, I hope that our live stream is able to offer you a sense of connection um, here on the live stream. Even if you are, you know, whatever, just join us,
Yeah.
y'all. Just join us. I'm lost for words. The Vizzy Pops got me. But this is a safe space for the girls, the goths, the gays, and the theys.
And
Here.
the ghouls, goblins, and cryptids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But would love to meet some of you guys in person too. I will be at Antoinette's second annual Midwest Witches Masquerade Ball in New Albany, Indiana. Would love to see some of you there. I hope to be in Salem this year, but the way that it's looking, I'm not sure I will be able to because I have so many other obligations. Salem might not even happen till like November because I don't think it's going to happen in September. Unfortunately, I really wanted to be in Salem for my 30th. Um,
Girl,
but
you better be. I'm already saving up.
I want to, but I don't think it's going to be able to happen in September.
We'll work it out. We'll figure it out at some point.
Maybe November.
Maybe.
So can you talk about dragon energy?
So I saw Moonlight's question, and I know people who work with dragon energy, and it's not that I don't. I don't necessarily work with what is considered draconic energy. I work with draconian energy. That would require an entire video and stream or whatever, all in and of itself,
We're waiting.
to really explain what the draconian path is.
We're
Um,
waiting.
Despite the blonde hair and the pastel colors, a lot of my path is very left hand. A lot of my path some might say appears darker than others, but again, Jasmine and I have expressed we don't like that terminology at all.
Nay,
What I
nay.
will say about dragon magic, from what little I know, because I do have someone in my life who works with that kind of energy, is a lot of it is very elementally influenced. It is about calling on the draconic forces within the earth and within the cosmos to invoke these elemental energies. That's about as far as my knowledge extends. And I know that's kind of surprising considering I'm kind of a nerd for the occult. Unfortunately, this isn't a section of magic I've dived deeply into, but Moonlight, maybe I will now.
Also, not us having almost 30 people on the stream.
Oh my God. Hi,
I
guys.
think our
Hi, everybody.
stream's highest was 29. Um, that's the highest that we've had for Daughters of Cain. So hi, 29 people, 25, 27 people. It keeps going back and forth between that. Hi, welcome to Daughters of Cain. In terms of dragons, so I'm not a draconic witch. I don't know if I would even say I'm draconian. I'm not sure if I understand the difference, Australia.
There is a difference. And again, that would be a very long explanation. So I guess I'll say this. If you guys really want a good in-depth explanation of the difference between draconic energy and draconian and the draconian current, perhaps I will do a video on that in the future myself after I've done some research on draconic so that I make sure I understand what I'm talking about, because I never like going into talking about things half-cocked. I like to have my ducks in a row when it comes to my research. So if that's something you guys want to hear about, I will do my best to make that
Well,
happen.
I'm definitely fine to speak on shit I don't know about. So, draconian, like draconic, whatever, dragon, witchcraft. There is a creator here on YouTube, Azure Dragon Feather, who is a draconic witch and works exclusively, I think, with dragons. Maybe go check out their channel. As far as myself, I don't really work with the dragons of like the four winds. I don't believe at this time that I have a dragon Karim. Karim being like your HGA or like your guardian spirit. Karim being like basically like your generous jinn that is your other part in the other world. For me, the only dragon that I have worked with is the devil, as in like the beast. And in our SCC Gnostic masses, we invoke that particular dragon. I will say in our mass, I can't speak too much about that, obviously, for fourth power reasons. But in the Solar Court Coven, we also hold a Gnostic Mass at least once a year. Normally, it happens at our Coven's retreat. And part of that Gnostic Mass involves invoking the dragon and celebrating in a sky-clad manner. Nocturnal says, loving the black and blonde. You guys, Australia is Enid, though. Like, just so y'all know, she is Enid. I don't know if I'm really Wednesday, but she's Enid for sure.
Am I? Am I Enid?
You are Enid.
Am I the drama?
Also, Tawny Owl. Y'all, this is one of my former students. Go check out their tarot page, please. They are amazing.
Okay, so real quick, I know we have other questions. Do we want to tell the story of how we met?
Let's tell the story. Literally, Sorceress is like, tell us. Wellness is like, I want to hear. Sorceress is like, how did y'all meet? My soul's purpose. I would love to hear how y'all met. You guys, it's cringe. It's cringe.
It's pretty cringe. Go ahead, tell.
So I will say this. This heifer didn't even like me. And she was worried about being friends with me because of what she heard about me.
It's kind of true. It's kind of true.
She heard that I was a messy bitch who lived for drama and shade. She heard that I was addicted to burglary and fraud. No, I'm kidding.
These things are all true, but I respect her for it.
I'm kidding. We're referencing Joanne the scammer.
Yeah.
But no, like, so I first saw Australia at our Indianapolis Pagan Pride Day circa, I want to say 2018, 2019, somewhere in there.
It was something.
And I was very busy because I was doing readings at the festival. And girl, I was booked and busy. Like our book filled up at 1:00. The festival went on until 5. We had a 2.5-hour wait. So I was really busy, but I came outside of the tent to get a beverage and to check on the people running the booth to make sure that they were okay, because I've been in an enclosed off tent. I literally don't know what's going on aside from the readings that I'm doing. And when I was checking on the booth babes, I saw Australia walk by our tent. Her nose was like cocked up high, and I saw her almost trying to, I feel like, ward herself, in a sense that you seemed like maybe you were a little anxious or overwhelmed about being there, and I thought that you were maybe trying to like ward yourself off. But I saw her, and her physical appearance caught my eye, and I immediately identified with you in a very quick moment, because I had to go back into the tent to do a palm reading, but I caught your eye. I don't even know if you saw me, but I saw you. I caught your glimpse for a moment, and I thought, I feel kindred to this woman. And then after that, I found you on my Facebook. I think I sent you a friend request.
You did, and I accepted it.
And then I saw you post on Facebook occasionally. And I remember thinking how kindred I felt to you at that Pagan Pride, but we never really talked until some drama happened in a Facebook group, which we will not name the Facebook group. But some drama happened in our local community that really brought us together. Um, and she's not been able to get rid of me since, basically.
No, not really. So I remember that particular Indie Pagan Pride. I had been working a booth as well. At the time, I was in the Coven that I spoke of, and we had decided to set up a booth just to inform the populace of Indiana, or Indianapolis in particular, that we were an active Coven and that we were, in fact, at the time recruiting. I had been a booth babe all day and decided that I needed a break. I needed to walk around. I needed to see the sights and everything like that. And I do remember walking past Third Eye Fortune's tent. And
how could you miss it?
You really can't. I do remember seeing you. When I am in public situations, I am pretty hyper vigilant. I'm kind of hyper vigilant all the time.
And the dolls have to be.
Yeah.
So.
And anytime I'm in a big, public setting or anything like that, I tend to come across as sometimes kind of aloof. Some might even say haughty, or I never really think I come across as snobbish, but I do kind of create an air about me of don't approach me. Now, I go through phases physically where like I'm sometimes in my dark spooky bitch phase, and then I'm in my light cute phase where the spooky bitch is still there. She's just failed. And I will say that at the time, I do believe I was wearing an all black dress, and I still had, long dark hair.
I think you had short black hair. I think it was like to your shoulders.
It was like a bob.
Uh-huh.
That was my hair, by the way. But I had gotten a lot of compliments that day. I had been approached by a lot of people, asked a lot of questions. I think at the point when you saw me, I was probably exhausted.
Yeah, because I do think that it was post-ritual for you. Because this was around, I want to say like 3:00.
Yeah, so my Coven had put on a public ritual where basically the ritual was we were laying summer to rest, and we were calling in autumn. And that was a pretty cool ritual because a lot of people noted that when we completed the ritual, the field where this festival was happening got cooler. And we had it documented somewhere that the temperature did drop several degrees after our ritual, calling in the autumn. It was a really cool day. It was a really fun day. But after the fact, Jasmine had sent me a message, or not sent me a message, but sent me a friend request. We did become friends. I never really engaged with her.
She hated me.
She hated
me.
I did hate her. But unfortunately, the rumor mill in the Indianapolis witchcraft community is very prevalent and chocked full of insecurity and lies. And like she said,
the devil is alive in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And we were both in this group where some people were...
Which we will not name the name, so y'all don't even ask.
But some people were being unfairly nasty to her. And I didn't want that to happen. I didn't think it was accurate. It felt very witch hunty to me. And I don't think you ever saw it, but I spoke up in defense of her, and my comment got deleted.
Yeah, I never got to see it because the powers that be basically blocked anyone from supporting the message I was trying to get across.
Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate thing is Miss Ambrosia over here is often, to the joy of some people, painted the villain. And for those of you who haven't caught up on this with Miss Ambrosia, she's kind of a weird, dorky goofball who happens to be pretty glamorous, but she's a nerd. She's a dork, and I love her for it. And people say some nasty negative things, especially about trans women in sacred spaces. Because people feel like we're invading or violating something or taking something from them. And it's just not the case. It's not the case. We're not here to take anything from anybody, but we're also not here to be pushed to the wayside and kept silent. That's not what we're here to do. A big ambition of both she and I is to alter that aspect of the witch community in Indianapolis. And I'm not saying every witch in Indianapolis is terrible. That's absolutely not the case. But the terrible ones tend to be loud.
I'm also saying most. I'm saying that. Me. Not Australia. I'm saying most of the witches in Indiana are trash. And if you look at our state, we're oftentimes a red state. So this racist, homophobic, transphobic narrative transfers over, unfortunately, into their philosophy as a witch. And I have a big issue with that. I also have a big issue with, in our local community, there are people who think that they speak for the whole, and they don't. And they don't. And I will say firsthand myself, I am ready and willing to be the villain. That's okay. Whatever you heard about me, matter of fact, even recently, I had a witch. We had dinner together. And if you're watching, no hate towards you whatsoever. But they asked me to clear up some rumors they heard about me and the Solar Court Coven. From now on, whatever you've heard about me, just believe it. Because I'm not clearing up shit, for what. But the rumors that they heard about us was that we were a Dianic group, that we were a women's only group.
Which, why is that an insult?
Literally. And we're not. And we have non-binary members, so I guess congrats on erasing their identity. But why is it that when the Minoan Brotherhood is having a meetup, I don't hear women trying to get into their events? But when there are specifically safe spaces for women, it's a problem. Which the Solar Court Coven is not a women's only space. But if it was, why is that a problem? That's telling. That's telling. But as far as when we met, our relationship in the beginning, I think it's fair to say, was like a little bit strained.
Yeah.
Because of our personal backgrounds, because of our personal obligations, because of who we were individually, and what we like represented. But I have chatted with Estradia like through FaceTime, no makeup, no lashes, hair in a messy bun, fresh out the bathtub. Like we actually are friends in real life, and we do actually talk off air.
Frequently.
But it wasn't always like that.
It took a while for trust on both sides, because I don't, as much as I exude this kind of like glowy, warm like thing, I am very warm. Once I warm up to you, it does take me a minute to develop trust with people, because so many people have broken my trust. And it takes me a while to, especially when it comes to things like witchcraft and that, to really get to where I feel like I'm comfortable with you. And then in Jasmine's case, early on, I was a little uncomfortable with the things that I was hearing, because I was like, I don't know if this is the kind of thing I want to be involved with. And that was my anxiety talking. What I will say is that once me and Jasmine became good friends, she has been one of the biggest supporters that I have. She has bullied me into doing things that I never thought that I would end up doing, like this show.
They told her I was a mean girl.
And she also really helped with my confidence, because for a while I had really poor confidence. I didn't think that anyone would want to look at someone like me, hear from someone like me. And I believe differently. And that's also been because of you guys and who watch our show, who have made me feel very welcome on Jasmine's platform and who have requested things of me. So that's really awesome. Jasmine's a great friend and I love her.
But I'm also the villain.
You're also the villain. Hey,
I'm honestly a terrible person. I'm horrible.
She's not.
I'm so horrible.
She is a sweet bean. She is the sweetest bean. And whether you believe it or not, I don't give a shit. Because, let me tell you, y'all got something nasty to say, I will be the first person to step up to bat and tell you why you ain't shit.
Okay, but this right here, though. Period.
Yes, trans women supporting trans women.
Period.
And trans women supporting women and queer people in general. We are here to support, especially in the witchcraft community. Gossip is a waste of energy. I agree.
Now, I will say there's this trend right now on TikTok where there's like a medieval bar decor sound, and it's like when you and I just spent 6 hours gossiping about someone we don't like, but we end it with "blessed be" and "do as thou wilt." Why is that be though? Like, look, I will be the first one to say, honey, I'm a gossip. I want to know the drama. I want to know the tea. You can tell me, because I'm curious. I'm not the girl who's like, oh, I'm not about drama. Baby, I'm a Libra. Okay? Judgment is my card. Justice is my card, honey. Period.
You know? And it's not that I'm not here for the drama. It's just like, I'm one of those people who's like, I don't want to start drama, but I want to hear about it.
Because we're giving you Lilith and Eve.
But yeah, one of the major things for me and Jasmine is that we definitely, as trans women, support each other. We try to support other trans women and other queer people in our community if we can. I mean...
Can we have some other... If you're watching this, if you're a fellow queer, even if you're not a trans woman, if you're a fellow queer, we would love to host you on our channel.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to talk about your perspective on witchcraft, if you want to talk about your spiritual path and how...
We want to hear it.
Yeah, you as a queer person, how that's affected your life, please let us know. We will have you on and we will have a discussion with you. Because this space is meant for witches and queer individuals to be safe and talk about the things that they might not feel safe talking about with other groups. Yeah.
Well, and I personally would love for us to have some more guests on this stream. So the best way to do so is contact my Instagram down below in the description, Jasmine Ambrosia on Instagram. Message me and say, hey, I saw your Daughters of Cain live stream. I would love to be on the show. We'll talk from there. I will then take your inquiry and give it to my co-host, Australia, and then we'll go from there.
Yes. But we love all you guys. We love the community that's building off of this show. We love the questions that you guys, because you guys ask really good questions. Even the vague questions are really good questions, and we really appreciate and love that. I love all of the people speaking up that are like, queer here, queer there. Yes, love that.
Australia, I'm going to give you a moment with the chat. I have to go pee again.
Girl, what did that busy pop do to you?
I know. I have to go pee again. You guys, hang out with Australia. I'll be right back.
Yeah, hang out with me again. Do we want to talk about astrology? I'm not good at that because that's Jasmine's bag, but I love talking about it. So, Sorceress, I see you're a Scorpio sun. For anyone who's interested, I'm a Cancer. Cancer sun. I'm a Gemini moon, which is why I'm all about research. It's also why I'm a little crazy. And then I'm a Scorpio rising. So yeah, that's my big three. Hi, Lunar. Welcome to the chat. I love seeing all of you out here. Yes, Nocturnal, this is why. This is why I get you, Nocturnal, because the Cancer energies. We've got Lunar, who is a Pisces Sun, Gemini Moon, and a Sag Rising. Ooh, Lunar, so you understand the Gemini Moon crazy. You get it. And the need to know things. I've got 5 planets, including Sun in Leo, Aries, and Virgo. Oh man, Xander, you're intense. A Leo Sun and an Aries Moon. I love that. Ganon, Cancer Moon. Come on. Yes. You're a librarian, Lunar, and you love to research? Yes, I love researching stuff. That's why whenever I come on here and I talk about a topic with you guys, with Jasmine and with you guys, I always get a little bit excited because it means it's another opportunity for me to do research. And I love researching in my off time. I actually used to like writing papers when I was in high school. I loved writing research papers, even if it was on a subject I wasn't super keen on. I just enjoyed writing a research paper. It's weird, I know. I don't know. Let's see, Blood. You said, I don't know when, Astradia, but if you're willing, I would love to have you on your channel. Oh, that's so awesome. Sometime to talk about something. Also, I'm a Scorpio Sun and Moon. Don't know my rising sign, though. That's okay. You know, I bet Jasmine could help you figure that out. Jasmine knows a thing or two about astrology. She knows
I
a thing or
do.
two.
I am an astrologer. I
She
am.
is. Professionally. Professionally.
Links down below. I also got a question for you, Australia.
Oh, yeah?
Not from me, but I won't say this person's name, but you do know this person
Okay.
intimately. So, given, think about like fourth power here, because this is
Okay.
kind of a fourth power question.
Ooh, okay.
Um, you came to the Solar Quartz Mabon ritual in 2022,
Mhm.
and everyone at the ritual saw the lights flicker when you came up to the altar. So the question is, what was your experience like at the ritual, and what has changed post ritual for you? Because someone was like, I saw the lights flicker. What did that mean? I was
So
like, well, let
first
me
of
ask
all,
her. While I
so
was
first of
taking a
all,
piss, I was like, let me ask her.
first of all, let me tell you, I was embarrassed as shit during that ritual. So for those of you who don't know, because you can't see my hands all the time, I have really bad tremors in my hands. I have some nerve damage, so my hands always shake, and sometimes it's worse than others. It's
For
usually
those of
not
you
that.
who don't know, Australia is actually 60 years old.
It's true. I'm 60 and I look like this. Um,
I'm kidding.
so when there's a lot of energy, a lot of high energy, a lot of magic going on, sometimes my hands go a little crazy. And part of this did involve using my hands. And but I will say that was an iconic moment. I went up to the altar area and immediately the lights flickered, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm feeling my witch
Girl,
blood."
the whole coven and all the invited guests were like,
Gagged, gagged at the patch. Um, that was a really big like confirmation moment for me. Not now, I've been doing this witch game for a long time. I know you hear a lot of these people on Witch Talk who are like, I've been doing this for 84 years. I've been doing this since I was a teenager. Um, in various iterations, I always go back to my roots. I always go back to basics, time and time again, because I love the experience of feeling fresh and new. With this particular ritual, I felt like it was a new beginning and a new path for me to start experiencing and learning things that I hadn't done before, that I hadn't given myself the grace to learn before. Um, so have there been changes? Absolutely. And some of those changes have been learning to let go of things that were no longer serving me and how to truly embrace things that were and are empowering for me. That is what I'll say has probably been the biggest bit.
Well, and like some of this, y'all, if you weren't there at the ritual, we can't tell you
Yeah.
what went on. Okay. Respectfully. Um, but I know for myself, when you came up to the altar, not only did the lights actually flicker, but I felt a presence and an energy around you that is unique, I think, um, to you and also to the dolls. We so part of this ritual went viral on TikTok. Um, so follow Three Obsidian Eyes if you want to see like the viral portion. But we were doing a dedication ritual, which was a portion of the ritual. And basically, our dedication, we do it like every Mabon or fall equinox. Um, and so it's where a witch dedicates themselves to the craft, not to the coven, not to the high priestess, but to the craft, and dedicates themselves to magic and also dedicates themselves to themselves. Um, and so that was part of the ritual where people were led up to kind of sign their name in blood in the black book, if you will. Um, and there's some fourth power aspect to this that I'm not going to say where, I'm not going to say who was there, but clearly the person asking this was a person at the ritual who, by the way, was a non initiate who saw you, Estradia, and who was like, now what's that mean? Right, right.
When you're blessed, you're blessed.
But no, I saw it and it was a physical manifestation of, I believe, a spiritual thing.
It was, excuse me, it was such a, sound like I'm a smoker. I'm not, but you know, it was such
Same.
a, it was such a deep moment for me. Just the imagery that was flashing through my head, the energy that I was feeling, my own energy just blossoming. It was great. I loved it.
No, I loved having you come too. And also, once again, for the record, we are not in the same coven.
Yeah.
So, just so everybody knows, she's my friend, she's not my daughter. Okay?
And I will say this, I have met most of the members of your coven, and I love them all. I think they're all wonderful people. Um, and I love being around you guys when you're doing magic, because one thing about presenting magic, especially online, that I hope to provide, and I'm sure Jasmine's with me on this, is we wish to bring some fun to it, bring some enjoyment, some laughter, because there's so many creators on this platform and on multiple platforms who present the occult, witchcraft, whatever, in a very dry manner.
Oh, so
And
dry.
so dry. And like, we want to present magic in a way that both shows that we are serious about our craft, serious about our religion, serious about the things that we believe, but we know how to have fun with it, and we know how to laugh and giggle and, you know, stuff like that. You know?
And also, for those of you in the chat, if you have topics for us, for Daughters of Cain, please comment down below what topics you might have
Please.
for us. Because we're open. We're spread wide for topics. Spread wide for topics.
In a Christly manner.
I would love to have some guests on this channel as well. And if you are an artisan, okay, comment down below. Let us know what you create because in 2023, I want to support our local or witchy artisans. So please comment down below. In a God-loving manner. Blessed be and blessed be.
You know,
Amen.
a good topic we might want to talk about at some point in the future is Christianity in the craft.
Like specifically or Abrahamic? Because like I don't have as much of like a solid understanding of like Christianity, but I could, honey, hold on. Honey, I can speak from the Quran.
There we go.
Because I have my good book right here. Yeah, I definitely can't speak from a biblical perspective, but I could speak from a Quranic perspective. And like, yeah.
Yeah. No,
But if we do a Christian, like, Daughters of Cain live stream, I'm down. I just might be more of like a commentator on the work.
Well, but you know about the involvement of like prayer and certain Christian aspects to like traditional witchcraft. We could talk about that. But anyway.
Shall we wrap this up?
I think we should.
It's almost at the 2-hour mark. So, wrapping this up, do you have any questions for me on this Q&A?
Have you been enjoying having me as a co-host?
I've hated it the whole time.
Too.
I hate it.
Absolutely.
You're vile. Keep coming back. You're vile.
I know.
No, I think that my question for you is, through our friendship, what have you benefited from our friendship? Let's do that as a Q&A.
That's a big question because it's a lot. Really, I think the support of each other, the boosting of each other, and just the general bullying of each other, because don't get it twisted, I bully her too. But when we bully each other, it's from a place of love. And I think having a friend in the witchcraft community that I know that I can trust without question, and that I know if I need will be there to assist me, is a big deal. Because there's a lot of witches who have shit on my trust, and you have not been one of them, and that makes me very happy.
And I would say the same for you.
Yes. Oh my God, a wholesome.
Oh my God. Let's have like a camera hug. We love each other. We love each other.
Yes, love.
We love each other.
Stop
honestly, truly.
Don't touch my hair.
We're not just co-hosts on a live stream. We are truly actually friends. So,
show.
And I hope that you guys know that we're both local to each other. Like we live in the same genus loci, honey. Okay, we're experiencing the same phenomenon. Honey.
Phenomenal.
The phenomenon.
I'm really proud of you for being able to say that word.
You guys see what I put up with this one? You see what I put up with?
I'm just saying, when we've got words in your vocabulary like sovereignty and apothecary.
And what other words?
There is another one. Oh, I loved it earlier. I don't remember what the word was, but we heard the Appalachia come out of your mouth a little bit earlier.
Now, I will say, here's my thing. While I am bilingual, I also make words up routinely. So sometimes it's because you have like the East Coast and Appalachia and the Hoosier speak and my Arabic all mixing into one. And then if you add liquor onto that, blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. But no, thank you all so much for watching. Lunar Sarah, Rixie Pie, Chrissy, Moonlight, Blood, Sweat, and Steel, Xander, Sorceress, Let's Go K9. Thank you. Who else do we have? Gannon. Thank you. Nocturnal. Brian. Thank you. Who else do we have? Who else do we have? I'm seeing a lot. Tawny, Owl, Tarot. Check them out. They're a former student of mine. Please support them. Elle, good to see you here. Mikey, love you. Good to see you. Wellness is Life. Good to see you, Fatima. Ivy's Grove, Timothy Foster. Good to see you here. My Soul's Purpose. Good to see you here. And all of you that I did not name, good to see you here. Thank you for joining. And until next time, blessed be, and I'll see you in hell. Period.